Okay, we'll call to order the Finance Committee meeting for Thursday, September 9th. If everyone would stand for the prayer and the pledge. Dear Lord, as we come upon the 9th anniversary of the September 11th attacks, we just ask for a special blessing on those who were families who lost a loved one that day. We just ask that you give them peace and that they found a way to move on. We also would like to ask the same for any of the soldiers who have fought and served this country and who have given their lives in service since then, that their families know some peace as well. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call. We are missing Councilman Johnson, Councilman Cullen, Councilman Dempsey and Todd Lambert, and Councilman Kluwat. We have no chairs additions. Reminder about the public comment period. If you wish to speak. I'm sorry, Mr. President, you had something?
I just want to add that tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock at Veterans Park, there's going to be a memorial for anyone who wants to attend. So I just wanted, I didn't know if anybody contacted you, but please make every effort to attend.
Okay, great, thanks.
And that's in honor of the 9/11, right?
Yes.
Okay. With that, we'll move into our report section, and we'll start with the revenue estimating report. Dr. James Richardson.
It's up there on the screen, and you have screens in front of you. Okay, very good. And we're going to do this very quickly for obvious reasons.
Obviously.
We started back last year. We were asked to bring a new revenue process to the parish, and one of the goals you had was implementing a revenue estimating conference process, and we're just beginning to build that structure. And the focus was, as we were talking about, was on your short-term budget issues, also longer-term issues as you're thinking about the expansion of your parish over the next 20 years. So we're going to be focusing on both of those. Tonight we'll focus more on the short term, just looking at next year just a little bit to give you a brief heads up on that. And I think there are really three steps we're going to go by. First is we're going to do tonight just some preliminary numbers, and we put the emphasis on preliminary because we still have a long ways to go to make it final, but we want to give you a hint of what we're doing. Step two, after we do this tonight, we review our assumptions. We have general forecast for the parish economy that's be forthcoming in early October. We have talk to business leaders here in town, here in the parish, get a sense of what's happening on the ground, and then we'll come up with some final numbers based on what we've done in steps 1 and steps 2. Right now, we're focusing on those sales tax for the three areas that the parish worries about: the sales tax of the district number 1, the East Ascension Drainage District, and then the district number 2. And to get a sense of how their size, we kind of look here at the base. This is the ultimate tax base for sales taxes, and we kind of compare it to the entire parish, and the entire parish is kind of based on the school board because it taxes everybody, municipalities and rural areas. It has a tax base of approximately $2.5 billion. East Ascension, which includes the rural areas and also the municipalities here, Gonzales and Sorrento, would be about $2.3 billion. And then if you look at just rural Ascension Parish, taking away all the municipalities, then you have down to about $1.7 billion. So that gives you a sense of the size of the tax base and the variations there. You sense over time how the green line indicates the entire parish. Over time, the red line represents purely the East Ascension, and then you move down to the black line represents Gonzales, and then the teal line represents the rural areas. And what we've done in making our forecast, we look at population growth. We note how with population over time, there's a certain increase in your tax collections per person. We look at your employment numbers that you have here, and we put those into equations. And this is for the District Number 1, which is your largest one in terms of dollars, about $15 million. You note that the red lines will be the actual. The green line will be that forecasted by an equation, which you see doesn't have the same cycles. So one of the things we want to do is figure out, okay, what's those little variations there? That's what we're going to find out from talking to people in the community and also looking at other variables. This is for District Number 1. Same element for East Ascension drainage, which is the same differences there, same variations. The same is going to be true for District Number 2. You only started that tax back in '94, I believe it was. You have that same variation. Well, taking information from those equations, what we've done is put together some early numbers in one column, and I think Gwen will talk more about that later on. You note the projections made in 2009 for 2010, the 13.7 million for Parish District Number 1, the 9.5 for the drainage district, and the 6.7 for the District Number 2. And we have some early estimates of what the whole year is going to be like. And you see that in this situation, you don't have the issue of the federal government or the issue of the state government. You have a surplus issue. And I think that's probably what you like to have. In that situation, the budget numbers certainly were very, very cautious last year, and providing you a little bit of wiggle room right now. So you have the surpluses. And then on the final column, you have a range of estimates for the 2011 budget. And again, these are what we call very preliminary. These are the ones that we want to go back and look at very carefully, because ultimately this is what you make your budget on, and you want your budget to be on very, very cautious, conservative numbers. You don't want them to be on some high-risk number at all. And what we do here, we talk to the community. We go back and talk to the tax administrators, because you have certain one-time things happening in any years. You want to account for those. So what you end up with, you have for this year, you note that you have some early estimates. We will go back and revise those, and by the time you get to your budget, we'll work with Gwen, with the other tax administrators, with other business people, and we'll get to a number and say, okay, this is a good number for you, for which you to base your budget, and then we'll give you some longer-term forecasts as well down the line. But that's what we have right now. You get an early sense of some preliminary numbers. The next steps are looking at more information about those cycles, talking to people in the community, coming up with some final numbers, and then looking at the long-term trends there. So that's what we plan to do over the next several months, get that to you, and as you put your budget together for 2011, and as you start thinking ahead for the decade ahead of us. Any questions?
Is there anything that you see so far that would have a real negative impact on that upward trend? Or so far everything is pretty
No,
positive
I don't think so. I
outlook?
think the biggest element you have, obviously, is you're very dependent on the plants.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's any type of major downturn there, we have to face up to it very quickly. In terms of your other characteristics, though, your population growth, that's certainly anticipated to continue to go as it has been doing. So I think the only real element that we have to watch real closely will be the plants, which you already know, because you are very dependent upon them.
Very good. I'm assuming they're included in the business community?
Yes, they are. You better believe they are, yes. Yes, sir.
Great.
Okay, any other questions?
Any questions, Dr. Richardson?
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Ms. Suzanne, please note that Councilman Johnson has arrived. We'll move on to the sales and use tax report for the month. Ms. Gwen?
Good evening, members of the Finance Committee. You have before you your normal report. You can see that for August collections, there was a deficit in the collections compared to last year. Month to month is worse than year to date. Of course, it's less than 0.5% and less than 2.5% for the two sales tax districts. As you just heard, comparing it to our budget, we're still ahead of our budget. We're at 66.6% of the year, and our drainage tax is at 72.4%, and our 1 cent sales tax is at 75.6%, and our sales tax district number 2 is at 74%. We still anticipate, coming in above budget. So that is the good news. The following pages are the normal charts that you see every month, and the pie chart depicts, it's just not scientific, but it depicts where the Sales Tax Authority has identified where our sectors are as far as where we collect our taxes in what sector. And then the last page is that historical chart compared to from 2000 to 2009 finals, and then where we are in 2010. If there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Questions for Gwen? None? Okay, we'll move on to our revenue expenditure report for the month. Ms. Amanda?
Good evening. This is the financial report for the month of July 2010, which is at 58% of the year. Your total revenues are at 43%. Your total expenditures are at 39%. On page 4 and 5 of the report is an explanation of the items that are highlighted in green that are 5% under the budget for revenues or 5% over the budget for expenditures. The last page is a listing of all checks issued for the month of July that were over $100,000, and the total of these checks are $2,670,101. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer at this time.
Questions on the revenue and expense report? No, we'll move on to the contracts report then. Kim?
Good evening, council members. Before you is the monthly contracts report for August. If you want to take a second to look it over, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay.
Kim,
Councilman Johnson?
I do have a few questions, but I'm not going to take up the time in the meeting. I'd like to see if you could hang around for a second. I'd like to talk to you about it.
Okay, sure.
Okay. We'll go ahead and move on then to our Lamar Dixon report. Mr. Vogt?
Good evening, gentlemen. Lamar Dixon was budgeted to have a $32,050 deficit this fiscal year. At this point, we're at $47,212 in the black, leaving us then, our projected year-end balance was projected to be $60,913. At this point, we are at $140,176. Any questions?
John, how is the BP, is it in this?
Could you speak up, please, Pat? I'm sorry.
BP, does their numbers reflect this?
This is just now beginning to reflect BP's numbers, and this is just a portion of the payments we've received to date.
Can we break that out into a line item maybe, separate, so we can see the BP? Okay, that'd be good. John, how's the bookings? How are we looking for the rest of the year on that?
We're about normal on that. Things are moving up. Obviously, we're not booking anything into the 4-H building because we have that occupied, thankfully.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, we're working on bookings. We're also working very conscientiously right now to increase our use of the banquet hall / ballroom area that hadn't had much use in the past, but we're working on that right now.
Okay. Other questions? No? Thank you. Okay, item 10, our bid item and request for proposals. Ms. Jones?
On August 26, 2010, the Purchasing Department received 6 bids for limestone grade 57. The bids were received from Araby Transport, Martin Marietta, Pine Bluff Sand and Gravel, Scott Singleton, Thaddeus Valerie, and Vulcan Material Company. After review, the Purchasing Department and Department of Public Works recommend accepting the lowest responsive bid from Vulcan Material Company.
Motion by Councilman Bell,
Second.
second by Councilman Johnson. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion passes.
On August 11, 2010, the Purchasing Department received 2 proposals for sweeper leasing. The proposals were received from Tennant and Doggett Machinery. After review, the Non-Engineering Selection Committee recommend accepting the proposal from Tennant and to authorize the parish president to enter into an agreement for this service.
Motion by Councilman Shakespeare, second by Councilman Bell. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, item 11, this is a follow-up from last month where we asked the administration to come to us for some recommendations on appropriations procedures. Mr. Martinez.
Yes, what you have before you is the policy regarding reporting requirements for appropriations by the parish government. This is something that we've come up with as an administration, either you to approve or not approve. I think all of you got this early. Did everyone receive this by email a week or so ago? And I don't know if you had time to look at it. And also we identified all the nonprofit appropriations. So I guess at this point it's up to you to make a decision whether to adopt this policy and also look at the different nonprofits that we give to and decide how we want to handle it.
Question.
Councilman Thompson?
Has all these been cut, President, to 20% we had talked about?
No, sir. This is actually what we give to them each year. This is actual numbers. There's no cuts because that hadn't taken place.
Well,
That vote hadn't taken place
we
yet.
talked about it at the last finance meeting that we were going to cut every organization that we give to at least 20%. And I offer a motion that we move forward with every organization that we give to, we cut them 20%.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilman Thompson to reduce all of the appropriations on this list by 20%.
Second.
Second by Councilman Joseph. Discussion. Councilman Valentine?
Mr. Thompson, when you say all organizations, are you saying all nonprofit and all organizations?
All.
Everything listed here?
Everything listed.
Okay, just want to clarify that.
And Councilman Thompson, just to clarify as well, are we talking about for next year's budget?
For next year's budget. We need to get a handle on it now before we approve the budget, where it would be already in the budget by the time we get the budget for 2011.
Mr. President?
We are currently working on that, so, you know, once we get, if it's so approved by the council at the next meeting, we will reflect that in the 2011 budget.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Johnson?
we've got a motion dealing with the appropriations, but we're looking at the policy as well. And I'd like to offer a motion to accept this policy and move it to the full council for adoption.
I second that.
A motion on the, well, let's go ahead and vote on the,
Point of order.
yeah.
Well, you got a motion, which is,
We need to finish that motion, I'm sorry.
Let's go ahead and take a vote on that motion.
That should be part of a substitute motion as part of the overall.
We'll break it. We'll just break it into two. We'll break it into two. So we'll take a vote on Councilman Thompson's motion on 20%. Any further discussion on that or any objection? Okay, hearing none. Motion passes. Now we have a motion from Councilman Johnson
Correct.
to adopt the policy.
Yes.
Okay. I need a second on that. Councilman Thompson, or second by Councilman Thompson. Any discussion on that? Any objection? Motion passes as well. Okay. We'll move on to item 12, a resolution to request the Parish Council's approval to apply for the fiscal year 2010 Emergency Management Performance Grant and to authorize Parish President Tommy Martinez to sign and execute all documents pertaining to this grant and/or Ms. Gwen LeBlanc, CFO, to sign financial documents. Ms. Martha?
That was it.
That's
Kent
it?
made the motion.
Do I need
Okay. A motion by Councilman Shakespeare?
Yes, sir.
Second by Councilman Bell. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion passes. We'll move on to item 13, amendment to the 2010 millage ordinance.
Yes, you will recall back in July, we adopted the ordinance assessing our millage rates for year 2010. There was a typographical error on the ordinance. Lighting District 7 showed 5.01, and it should be 5.00. There was a typo made by my office, so we would ask you that you would correct that
Okay.
so we can get it
Motion by
in.
Councilman Johnson to adopt this amendment, second by Councilman Bell. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion passes. I need a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn by Councilman Shakespeare, second by Councilman Johnson. Meeting adjourned.